So, good morning everyone. Today it's going to be about English phonology. I'm going to talk about English speech patterns, focusing on stress, connected speech, and intonation. For the first topic, let's talk about stress in simple words. In English, one syllable is stressed more than the other. This means we don't pronounce every part of the word equally. A stressed syllable is usually louder, longer, and spoken with a higher pitch. This is important because stress helps listeners recognize words correctly. We also have the two-syllable rule. For nouns and adjectives, the stress is usually on the first syllable, like table or clever. But for verbs, the stress usually moves to the second syllable, such as to relax or to begin. This shows that stress can even change depending on how the word is used. Now for the second part, complex word stress and weak forms. Next, we move on to complex word stress and weak forms. For complex word stress, longer words still have one main stress. Even though they have many syllables, the important thing is that stress can shift when the word changes form. For example, economy, but when it becomes an adjective, it changes to economic. So the spelling looks similar, but the stress moves. Now let's look at weak forms. In sentences, grammatical words like to, of, and for are usually unstressed. Because they are unstressed, they often use the schwa sound. For example, want to becomes wanna. In natural speech, this helps English sound smoother and more natural. Now, for connected speech, in real spoken English, words are linked together, not spoken one by one like in reading. Because of this, sounds often change when people speak quickly and naturally. There are three main processes in connected speech. The first one is assimilation, where sounds change to match nearby sounds. For example, handbag is pronounced often as handbag. The second process is elision, where sounds disappear. For example, next day becomes next day, and the T sound is dropped. The third process is intrusion, where extra sounds are added to connect vowels. For example, I agree becomes I agree. All of these processes make spoken English faster and more fluent. Now, for the fourth one is intonation patterns. Now, intonation patterns is the rise and fall of the voice when we speak. It adds meaning beyond just the words. There are two main intonation patterns. The first is falling intonations. This is used in statements and WH questions. For example, she lives here. The second is rising intonation. This is used in yes or no questions. For example, are you ready? Using the wrong intonation can confuse the listener or change the meaning. Now, for the fifth one is intonation structure. It's also known as the three T's. The first T is tonality, which means dividing speech into chunks. For example, after class, we went home. This helps the listener process information more easily. The second T is tenacity, which is choosing the most important word in the chunk. For example, I bought a book. The third one is tone, which is a pitch movement such as rising or falling. For example, that's interesting. Together, these three help organize spoken English clearly. Now, for our last topic, the function of intonation. Now, we look at function of intonation. The first function is grammatical. Intonation helps us tell the difference between a statement and a question. For example, you finished? Or you finished? The second function is attitudinal. Intonation shows emotion or attitude. For example, that's nice. It sounds sincere. Or compared to, that's nice. It sounds more doubtful. So intonation plays a big role in meaning. Now, that is all for my presentation. We do have some Q&As to answer, so let's go to that. First is, what did you learn about English speech patterns? For me, I think it was about stress and intonation, is like how English sounds so natural and understandable. Yeah. And for the second one is, how does intonation affect communication? Intonation affects communication by showing grammar, meaning, and emotion. The same sentence can sound like a statement, a question, or express feelings depending on the intonation. And what was the most challenging part of studying phonology? For me, probably understanding the complex words in stress, because stress can change a word form, and words that look similar in spelling can have different stress patterns, such as economy and economic. It's, it's quite difficult to notice where to place the stress. Listening carefully helped improve it, definitely. But yes, it seems that's all we have. Thank you all for listening. Goodbye.